Hi, this is Michael Adams for CEORoaster and Stock Telegraph. And as you're all aware of, I'm a big fan of crypto and technology, especially Bitcoin has just reached a new, I think, all-time high, right? And crypto is something which I'm really deeply interested in. But let's not forget that the old and storage of value was always for 5,000 years was always gold and silver. And in the markets right now, it seems that all the investor or a lot of the investor intention is focused on crypto deals or some high-tech deals, and the precious metal sector, or especially gold and silver sector, is kind of lacking a little bit of momentum. And my feeling is, with all the money that's printed, all these trillions of dollars that are fed into the system by the federal banks worldwide, and maybe upcoming inflation, well, which we hope it's not going to occur, but with all the money, it's a possibility, right? So I think the smart investor should take a look at high quality junior exploration or junior resource companies. And one of the companies on my agenda, on my watch list, is Heliostar Metals. The company's stock is trading on the TSX Venture, and the symbol is HSTR. It's also trading in the United States on the OTCQX. The symbol is HSTXF. And of course, also on the German markets, the German symbol is RGG1, but as most of the Germans are using the WKN number for trading their stocks, the WKN number is A2QEX9. But I will put that somewhere around that video as usual, so that you can kind of dig into it. But for now, it's my great pleasure to have Charles Funk here. He's the CEO of Heliostar Metals, and he will run us through the story, give us a little bit of details. But to start off, Charles, thank you very much that you are here. Give us a little bit background about yourself, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, Michael. I think you're right, first of all, both. You can buy gold stocks at a discount at the moment, given that they're not flavor of the month. But also, when you buy a company like Heliostar, you get that macro environment with the inflation kicking in, as well as our goals to increase the gold resource at Unga. So you sort of get significant leverage to your investment at the moment. My background is I'm a geologist who worked for mid-tier and major companies, most notably Newcrest and Oxiana out of Australia. But I came to Canada as I wanted to get a bit more entrepreneurial, and most recently I was the VP of Exploration for Vizsla, which you'll know we were fortunate to have pretty incredible success last year at the Panuco project that's continuing. I'm now director of Vizsla as I focus on Heliostar going forward.
Okay. Cool. And Vizsla, a lot of the Germans are well aware of the company. It had a really good run at the beginning, and now it's with a lot of other, let's say, junior companies, it's consolidating, right? But for now, let's focus on Heliostar. And I think, let me bring up the presentation so you can just run us through. So can you see everything?
Yes, I can.
Okay, cool.
And so Heliostar, for your listeners, is a new company that was formed late last year, or in August, September last year. It was the combination of a private company that I ran and a public company. And it's focused around the Unga project in Alaska, really high-grade gold project with significant upside that I'll talk about, and some earlier stage projects in Mexico where we're having very good success. We think we can lift our asset base in the very short term to over 1 million ounces of very high grade. So we think we have the right mix for an investor, in that we have a management team who's done this before, very strong mixture of skills on the board, a very tight share structure, so very significant talk to exploration success. The portfolio that I'll attempt to convince you in this meeting that is a really amazing opportunity. And we're in a good position. We've got 3.5 million in the bank, and just today we closed the book on a capital raise that'll top that up towards 8.5 million. Oh. I'll explain the reason for that as we run through the presentation.
Sure. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Especially because that was at a not too much discount to the market, right? I think you raised money at 105.
That's correct.
Yeah, and we're trading at 110-ish around that level. So because usually a lot of companies have to intensify the placement by giving a big discount or giving warrants, which are like very, very attractive. So what was the warrant term that you had to attach?
Yeah, so we've got, everyone, investors love warrants, and shareholders in existing companies hate giving up warrants. And so we came with a 12-month warrant at $1.70. So very short time frame, but it's got an accelerator on it. So the logic is, from our key backers, is that if we have the success that we think we're going to have this summer, we can accelerate that warrant and use that cash to extend the program. So it serves a very particular purpose. It's not just a multi-year overhang on our stock.
Yeah, no, makes sense. Okay, thanks. Go ahead.
For a company our size, I think we have an extremely strong board. I think very quickly we can break it up into financial strength with Jacques Vaillancourt and George Island, technical strength with myself, Alan Wilson, and Ken Booth. And then William Lamb was the CEO of Lucara. With Lucas Lundin, they took the Kawari diamond mine from feasibility to steady state operation. And we want to take Unga through increase in resource, permitting into production. And we've actually got a board who's done that, which is not very common for companies our size.
Okay.
We also then built a management team who's got experience in taking projects through these steps that we hope to. Most significantly, Sam Anderson joined us from 17 years with Newmont and a finance degree. He's got a great depth of experience and is leading particularly the Unga project. Mm-hmm. We also added Rob Gray recently as investor relations. It might stretch a few memories, but Exeter and Extore were incredibly successful sort of 10 to 5 years ago and made a lot of money for investors. And Rob's brought a lot of strength to our share structure, particularly in terms of liquidity in the last couple of months.
Yeah, and Rob actually brought my attention to Heliostar, right? So because I was working with him on both companies, on Extore and Exeter, which, as you said, was a fantastic success for the investors, right? So they both have been taken out by majors. Yeah, they were trading on the big board, on the Amex, right? So huge success, and it's good to have him on board, especially as I know him for probably 13, 14 years, right? So as soon as traveling is not restricted any longer, I'm pretty sure he's going to hit the road, like going down west and east, goes up and down, and talk to his old contacts, which will give a lot of attention to Heliostar. That's my feeling.
Absolutely. Rob and I'd love to get on the road and meet people face to face. We suffice like this in the meantime. But yeah, there's a small we found out that Bryson Yale and Rob actually tried to acquire the Unga project. So it speaks to the pedigree of the opportunity, and that they knew about it with their background, tried to get it, and we were the ones who had the good fortune and the right deal at the right time to put the Heliostar together.
Okay, cool.
In terms of our corporate structure, I mentioned that really tight share structure, effectively no warrants prior to this raise out, and still a strong financial position. If you look at that breakdown, it's 20% owned by board and management. So, we're committed to the success of Heliostar. Another 20% sort of high net worth investors in Eric Sprott and the original backers of the Heliodor private company. We started to bring in some institutions in the capital raise in August last year. Phoenix 2000, K2, Crescat came in. We've significantly added to that with the raise just being closed as we speak. And then a smaller portion of retail shareholders at this stage. Prior to this raise, mostly legacy Red Star shareholders. Okay. So really tight structure with probably less than half of that stock free trading on any one day.
Yeah, and that's to be honest, that's one of the problems in regards to liquidity, right? Because I guess that Sprott is not going to sell. Yes, the board and management is not going to sell, and you can see that by the liquidity in the market, which is for a quality deal as Heliostar is still lacking, or is not where it could be, right? So that's something which needs to be worked on a little bit. But because you have these shareholders from Red Star and Heliodor, maybe give us, that was kind of the predecessor companies that have been merged, or?
Exactly. So I founded Heliodor as a private company. It was backed by about 15 high net worth investors. So yeah, most of those you can consider to be sort of locked up stock as well. And then Red Star was the previous owner of Unga. Mm-hmm. So Red Star acquired Heliodor. That was the process in August last year to form Heliostar. So that was the original public company that had the Unga asset. And so Jacques Vaillancourt was the chairman of Red Star, and he continues to be the chairman of the new Heliostar.
Okay.
But you're right, the liquidity is a double-edged sword. Upgrading our listing to the OTCQX in the US, which we did in February, has certainly helped that, and it's a focus of the company to make sure that there's more regulatory. We're consistently sort of doing 50 to 100,000 shares now, so we have improved it. But you're right, that's a real focus to make it easier for people to enter and be a holder of Heliostar.
Yeah, exactly.
And so we've got the company, I think, in very good shape at a corporate level. Make it easier to invest. But the real reason to invest is the portfolio. It's the high grade, high probability nature of those targets, and that really starts with our Unga project, our flagship project in Alaska. It's already got 384,000 ounces at 13.8 grams, so extremely high grade and a significant start. But we think it can be much higher, and I'll show you why we think that is. It's an interesting project in that it is down in the peninsula in Alaska. So it's a remote project, but it's surprisingly accessible in that you can regularly fly, daily commercial or charter flights from Anchorage, regular barge trips from either Homer in Alaska or Seattle. In fact, a number of people in Sandpoint shop in Costco in Seattle and get it delivered every week. So you can see the airstrip there. You can land a 737 on the airstrip. So
wow.
I don't think people expect that kind of access, which makes it very easy for us.
Yeah, that would be one of my questions. Yeah, because especially if a European is thinking about Alaska, he's always thinking about ice roads, right, and high mountains and everything. So what's the situation there? So I don't see any ice there. And there's how's the infrastructure? You mentioned that it's easy to go to the project, but is there like a town somewhere close by where you can kind of get a labor? And how's the situation with the First Nations, if there are any? So what's kind of the surroundings down there on the ground in Alaska?
Yeah, so our closest town is Sandpoint. It's a town on Popof. It's a little fishing village that is between sort of 1,000 and 4,000 people from winter to summer. It's actually not much further north than northern Germany in terms of latitude. And so that really surprises people in that people just picture Alaska as this white frozen tundra. Yeah, this very different scenario. We're building camp at the moment. We drilled until the end of November last year. So we have a 9-month field season. It's completely different to what most, but weather's not too dissimilar to Vancouver or Seattle because it's so far south and because it's at tidewater. So that makes access very easy. We fly to Sandpoint and then we move over to Unga where we have our field camp, which is about 5 kilometres to the west. Okay. We have a very strong relationship with the First Nations in Alaska. They are your preferred partners to operate in Alaska. That when you form a good relationship, for us, it's with the Aleut Corp. It makes it a lot easier to do business. And we have a 7-year exploration agreement with a built-in 20-year mine lease with the Aleut Corp. And then your surface rights are with the Village Corporation. So on Unga Island, that's the Unga Corp, where we've just extended our agreement for 3 years, and we have a very good relationship with the Unga. We're very grateful for their support, and that's working very well. And also the Shumagin Corporation on Popof, where we have rolling agreements. Okay. So we benefit a lot from local support from Sandpoint. That it is really a fishing village, but we're educating as we're creating a bit of an understanding of gold and gold exploration. In fact, there was a history, there's a legacy of gold mining in that the Apollo mine, which we'll talk about, was Alaska's first underground gold mine. And so it operated on Unga Island up until the early 30s. And there was a town of Unga until the 60s. When the mine shut down, the post office finally left in the 50s and the town was abandoned in the 60s. So there's an understanding of the economic benefits of mining. Okay. So we have to do all the right things, but we've got very good partners with the Unga and Shumagin on the project.
Okay, cool.
And so the project from a geological perspective is amazing. It's a huge district, 10 by 13 kilometre lithocap on Unga, another 5 by 5 Ks on Popof. And what that means is lots and lots of potential. There's porphyry targets, there's bulk tonnage gold targets. And I think maybe some of the previous explorers got a bit lost because they had so many targets and didn't know where to focus.
Okay.
And so we think we can get to an initial 1 million ounces. Before we look to get beyond that, I think we'll get a significant re-rate if we can get to 1 million ounces.
Mm-hmm.
And we think we can do that from the 4 targets that are labelled in the green boxes here. So that's SH-1, the resource that's open to expand. It's Aquila, which was a discovery that is again open for us to expand this year. The old Apollo mine, which we'll talk about,
mm-hmm.
and then Centennial, which is a non-compliant resource. So to have 3-4 targets with open intersections on one property at one time is incredibly rare, and that's why we have such confidence in the summer program this year.
Mm-hmm.
And so that starts, I'll skip the more detailed geology that people can find on our website.
Yeah.
This opportunity starts with SH-1. It is the resource. You can see here, this is a long section, and you can see the core of it's really well drilled with some excellent holes. See 17 meters at 24 grams. So amazing widths, amazing grades, really shallow. And we recognised that there was 3 ways that we think we could expand the resource. One of them was last year we drilled 7 shallow holes to fill a gap near surface, and we got spectacular results. The best of them, 11.6 metres at 7.7 grams in hole 1. Hole 3 was a surprise, 7 metres at 6.6 grams, all of them including high-grade sub-intervals. And so that's increased the confidence, and particularly with holes 2 and 3, likely added resources in the shallow area. We're going to come back this year and we're going to focus on infilling and stepping down. If you look, you see all the deeper drilling is sort of 100 to 300 metre spaced, and that's completely inappropriate for how you'd explore an epithermal. That drill space should be sort of 50 metres at best. We also know that we get coarse grain gold, so you've got to drill lots of holes. You can't just drill one hole and have another one 300 metres away and say that's representative.
Okay.
So if you look, the deepest hole is 5.5 metres at 24 grams, never been followed up on. So our program is going to come back and do the infill drilling because we think we can increase. And you notice in the core area that there's some low-grade holes. That happens in these systems.
Okay.
We think in these areas that could be exactly what's happening. So the combination of infill drilling and then stepping down, we think that could give us a lift into the 0.5 to 1 million ounce range just at SH-1 by itself this year.
Okay. Let me ask you a question about the drilling. So when is it going to start? How many meters are you planning to drill? How many holes are you going to drill? And will you drill RC, I guess, or are you going to drill diamond core? Or
We're going to do both. So
Okay.
we'll be drilling in the next few days. We're just building camp at the moment, and then drilling will commence. We've got 3 rigs at site, so we're taking 2 RC rigs and 1 diamond rig.
Okay.
And the diamond rig will focus on the expansion at SH-1. It will do that infill and step down drilling. We might even do RC pre-collars, which means we can get down to the target depth very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And we think for the original program that we had fully funded before this capital raise, we were going to drill approximately 2,000 metres of diamond drilling. So half of the holes will be RC, and then the resource part of the drill holes will be diamond. We don't know exactly how many meters of RC we'll drill because we haven't done RC before. Okay. The advantage of RC is that it is very quick. You can get a lot more meters a lot more quickly, and you can get bigger sample sizes. So we have an internal number of probably around 5,000 meters of RC for a total of 7,000 meters. But we have to. No one's done that before, so we have to confirm that before we say, before you hold a gun to our head and say this is what you promised. But we will get a lot of meters with the RC, so it'll be a very aggressive drill program.
Okay, cool. And so the investors can expect the results in February 2022 because of the lab situation, or
Yeah,
what? No, so
no.
I just talked to some other guys and they said like it's like a disaster, right? We're waiting and waiting for months and months and months for the lab to come back to us. So what's your expectation there, or is there any preparation so that you can book slots, or how does that work?
Yeah, last year in particular, it was really bad. We drilled in September, November, and got those results back in January
Yeah.
through to February. So it looks like gold in particular has improved.
Oh,
So we would expect turnaround in sort of 6 to 8 weeks.
okay, that's
So
reasonable. Yeah. Okay.
late May to early June, we'll still be drilling. So the labs have had sort of 12 months or sort of 8 months to react.
Mm-hmm.
It's still difficult. You'll still have people tell you about delays with assay results,
Mm-hmm.
but particularly for the gold, that turnaround time is now sort of in that 4 to 6 weeks range, plus a little more time for getting the samples to the labs.
Okay, but that's reasonable, right? And
It's a huge.
yeah.
Sorry, I talked over the top. Starting early is a huge opportunity for us in that if we waited and started in June, like a lot of people,
Yeah.
we would be putting our samples in the lab with all the other companies. But by
Right.
going
Yeah.
a few months earlier, we actually get a head start. So that's quite significant for us.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't think about that, but you're right. Yeah, cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was a challenge for us last year that becomes an opportunity for us this year.
Okay, good.
And so what separates Unga as an opportunity is just how many of these amazing targets sit there. And so the next one I'll talk about is Aquila. So it's 6 kilometres along the Shumagin vein to the southwest. And we went there because look at this slide, like over a big area, 10 grams gold, 6, 7, 10, 11, like multiple ounce samples nearly over a kilometre of strike. Geologically, it's got this beautiful shape that's where ore shoots form. It's called a dilational zone. And that space is where you form gold deposits in epithermals. And so Battle Mountain found this in the 80s and did some good work on it. They mapped it, they trenched it, but when they went to drill it, they got really poor core recovery. And so we completed the first holes after that work last year. And you see the next slide here shows both the plan map and the section. Our first hole was surprisingly really good. 3.6 meters at 4.5 grams in one vein, and then a second vein of 17 meters at 2.2 grams, including a high-grade subinterval. The second vein, you could probably halve the widths. We didn't understand the orientation, which we now do. It's why you drill.
Mm-hmm.
But we've got 2 veins now with very good mineralization. They're open along strike. They're open at depth. And we think there's 2 ways to win at Aquila. Those 2 veins are going to intersect to the east of our drilling. It's hole 1 is the only hole that we hit the amethyst vein in. So where they intersect, that's a classic spot for ore shoots. We also notice how we've got a big broad interval, 31 meters at 1.8 grams. That's really shallow, and you can see lots of veins in this area. So we could also create maybe a shallow open pit target, or we also know that these veins will coalesce into one main structure. So we think there's 2 ways to win, and we'll just be stepping out on these open intersections with the RC drill rig.
Mm-hmm.
And having really good news flow. We're really excited about the potential of the vein at Aquila. We think we've just got the tiger by the tail here. We're just starting, and we don't know how big this could become.
Okay.
Our third target is the old Apollo mine. So, for the history buffs, this is the first underground mine in Alaska. You can see it in its heyday here with the stamp mill, with the with the train track up to the stope.
Okay.
Today, because they mined that to surface, you can see exactly where it is, and because the roof collapsed. They produced 130,000 ounces of gold at 10 grams per tonne, so an extremely profitable mine. But they ran into a significant problem, which is a huge opportunity for us. It's shown well on this old long section. You can see the area that they mined out in the Apollo-1 chute in the top left there. But they didn't understand there's a type of deposit that this is, also Panuco, the Vizsla's Panuco is as well, is that it's called an intermediate sulphidation deposit. And that means that it's gold rich where it's shallow, and then it becomes gold, silver base metals, and ultimately only base metals at depth.
Okay.
And it's just the nature of these veins. And when these old explorers and miners got deeper, they started getting galena and sphalerite and other base metals. And that meant that they couldn't recover the gold in their old stamp mills. Stamp mills are just glorified hammers on camshafts that spin around and just physically pound the rock. And so they called everything above that black line free milling ore and everything below it complex ore. Today, or even by the 30s with flotation, it became very easy and straightforward to produce from these. There'd be 100 mines in the world that very simply produce from this kind of material. And that's the big opportunity for us, in that not knowing that it wasn't going to change, they sunk these shafts. You can see shaft 1 on the west there, shaft 2 in the center, and the Sitka shaft in the east. Then they did these exploration drives out, and they mapped the ore body on 3 sides. So they told you exactly where it was, and they even went one step further. In the shaft 2 area in the center, they told you that would be 3 grams gold, 250 grams silver, and 10% combined lead zinc. And that's 8 to 10 grams gold equivalent. And amazingly, no one followed up on that until we did last year. We found the vein under Apollo. The first hole hit workings, the second hole deviated, but the third hole we found the vein drilled 2 meters at over 5 grams. We know that there's some wider widths, up to 8 meters wide from some of the old reports. We also found these broad stockwork zones outside of the vein, particularly at Sitka. We hit workings, but hit 25 meters at a gram in a stockwork zone. So we're super excited with our program this year. We're going to follow up on those drill holes, systematically drill under the old workings, and we think we've got another 0.5 to 1 million ounce target. But here it will be gold equivalent. So amazing opportunities. I'll skip over Centennial. People can read that on our website. But, our program last year really started to show the district scale, because previously all the focus was on SH-1. And so having open intersections at SH-1, Aquila, and Apollo is what gives us the confidence to be so aggressive this year. We've got the 3 rigs that we talked about, and we'll be doing our best to show that we can get to 1 million ounces as quickly as possible. Then we did raise the money, so we've just closed the book. The formal closing will be at the end of the month, but we've closed the book on our capital raise. And the idea of that is, with the demand for rigs in Alaska and Canada at the moment, if there was any delays for any reason with results, or the market wasn't there to raise money in a couple of months, we would have had to give up the rigs, and we would have been unlikely to get them back in the field season.
Sure. Yeah.
So our strategy was to be a bit more prudent and raise that capital with that funding mechanism in the accelerated warrants. And so that'll allow us just to get more aggressive should we have the success that we think we'll have at the start. So very aggressive program, working up. There's targets that I haven't even mentioned. There's a porphyry target with 100 meters at 0.4 gold equivalent. No drilling near it. There's another gold target. The old timers sunk a 60-meter shaft and got between 15 and 150 grams gold at California. There's just so many amazing targets, and this extra funding will allow us to work those up and then integrate them later in the season into our exploration program.
Yeah. Charles, are there also some plans to do or to engage in M&As, or are you looking for or to acquire more projects or more land packages around that area, or will new acquisitions be focused, because you just brought in Mexico? Will you acquire more projects around Mexico, or are there, especially in Alaska, are there bigger producing companies which are close by that could have an interest in joint venturing with you, or partnering, or taking you out, or so? What's the situation there?
Yeah, we're always opportunistic for M&A. We always see opportunities, and we're regularly reviewing projects. At the moment, we think the best bang for our buck comes from our portfolio. To have these kind of targets is incredibly rare. And so our core focus is to show the full potential of Unga. We think it could be a very significant district. So in Alaska, there are multiple explorers. There is Northern Star out of Australia have Pogo, Coeur has Kensington, Kinross who has Fort Knox. There's a number of mid-tier to major gold companies. So we maintain good relationships with those groups. Our focus is developing the project as Heliostar at this stage.
Okay.
We do, though, it's a good segue to quickly touch on our projects in Mexico.
Sure.
We are exploring in Mexico at the moment because it doesn't matter how good your project is in Alaska. There's a seasonal aspect in investors' minds. And we have that long field season that mitigates that. But we also have these projects in Mexico where I personally have a long history, and we know that there's a lot of potential here as well. And so I'll quickly touch on La LOLA and Kumro, where we recently put out some news, and you can expect some more news shortly. So La LOLA is a big area, sort of halfway between Silvercrest Las Chispas district and the Silver Tiger district, that's been in the news recently. I staked it in a former company. It's a big area with lots of alteration, big veins that get up to 40 meters wide. And when we sampled it, we got up to 57 grams gold at surface and 400 gram rock chip samples. So we had a big vein that we knew was shallow in the system, and the sweet spot would be deeper, and then evidence that it did produce high grade. So the logical next step was to drill. And we put this press release out, I think about 2 weeks ago, just before Easter. We've drilled 4 holes now. We've completed hole 4. And the idea is that the vein is shallow. We're too shallow at surface, and the sweet spot will be down deeper. And so we've just stepped down in holes 1, 2, 3, and 4. We've hit the vein in all of those holes. And we announced in hole 2, we hit 2.5 meters at 92 grams silver. So not a home run, but a very good start and proof that it gets better as you go deeper. So we're anxiously waiting for the assays back from hole 3 and 4, because if we can show that it gets better, then we've got a whole 5-kilometer vein to step along and explore. So this is the first drilling ever done at La LOLA, and a pretty exciting start for us. Then I'll touch on our Kumro project. Kumro is a project that is completely surrounded by Silvercrest. We were trying to put the whole district together, and unfortunately we got completely outbid by them last year. But at Kumro claim, we own 100%. And it's an interesting district because it's in 2 halves. To the west is outcropping veins, and Silvercrest just announced, in fact, I can skip to the next slide. In February, they put out 21 drill holes that average 4 meters true width at 8 grams gold. So that shows you the kind of intercepts you can get on the property. Just to be clear, that's on Silvercrest ground.
Yep.
Those veins trend directly onto our property, have never been drilled. Yamana drilled them up to the property boundary, and that's where we're mapping and sampling at the moment, particularly on the Basatagui vein. But what we announced a couple of days ago was the eastern block is a down-thrown block, exactly like I described for La LOLA. And we got some big anomalies like at Dos Amigos, exactly as we expected. Anomalous silver, pathfinder elements that tell us that there's a deeper target. But we got a really good surprise on another vein. We sampled 390 grams silver out by itself. Beautiful quartz pyrite vein. That shows you that there's economic grades in the eastern block. We knew there would be at depth, but this proves it in surface sampling. And so we're going back to expand that to see how big that could be, to do a soils grid over it. Our logical next steps are probably an IP survey before we look to drill, but really exciting results from a first pass program. And so, there's a lot happening in Heliostar, as you can see. You'll see news over the next sort of 6 weeks from the continuation of our Mexican project. And then because we started drilling, you'll see news from then on from Unga. So, a management team who's made discoveries and put mines into production before, a really tight share structure, what we think are a spectacular portfolio of high-grade assets, not just high-grade, but really high probability targets. I think that's what sets us apart, is the confidence that we have with our drill program. And then with the recent capital raise, an even stronger financial position to execute in 2021.
Yeah. No, so that was, thank you very much. It was a very interesting, in-depth presentation. My feeling is, and I think you're going to agree, at least on the first part, the main focus of the company is still the Unga project in Alaska, right? My feeling would be, I know that you have experience in Mexico and some other guys also have experience in Mexico, but there's a lot of bigger companies around in Mexico, in Sonora, that have an appetite for takeovers. So if you can kind of dress up the Mexican projects, that this could be in the future another source for funding or for joint ventures, so that the company can totally focus on the Alaska project. As you just wrapped up, you're in a good financial position. You have an excellent project. You have a lot of exploration potential. There's a ton of news which are expected to come out for the rest of the year, at least into the fall. So I totally like what I see. It's up to my audience to do their own due diligence. The website is heliostarmetals.com, right? So you can get all the information there. Or you can always bother Rob Gray. Yeah, he loves to be on the phone. So honestly, right? So he's very easy. He's very easy to access. He's very good to talk to, right? He understands, because he has been over here in Germany. He understands the mindset of the German investors. So feel free to reach out to him or drop him an email. And I'm looking forward, if the world changes back to normal, I'm looking forward to see the two of you on the German ground. Maybe for the convention in Munich, or maybe some other place. But again, I really like what I see. I keep fingers crossed for the drill program. And the final words are yours.
Thank you. Yeah, please reach out to Rob or myself. We'd love to answer any questions if you have it. We think we're embarking on the transformational drill program at Unga. So it's going to be a very exciting summer with lots of news. So hopefully you agree, and we'd love to have you as a shareholder. So thank you, Michael, and thank you to everyone for listening.
Okay, great. Thanks, Charles. Bye-bye.